I'm Manouk Akopyan. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our partners, personal injury attorney Nelson Gavorkian. Hi, everyone. I am joined by undefeated heavyweight contender, 2020 Olympic silver medalist Richard Torrez Jr., getting ready to return December 7 on the undercard of Emmanuel Navarrete, Oscar Valdez rematch in Arizona. Richard, you're going to be fighting Isaac Munoz, who's had some tough fights as well too in his career. This is another step up for you. And I'm curious, what are you looking to prove in this fight as you continue your ascent in your career?
I think one of the biggest things I'm trying to prove come December 7th is just the that I'm progressing in the right direction. I think a lot of people are always like, "Oh, he's a one style fighter. He just wants to come in and slug. He wants to just do this." I think people have a lot of like preconceived ideas of who I am as a fighter, and I'd really just like to broaden the perspective.
In your last fight against Dueco, you were dominating, but the fight had an anticlimactic finish when he was DQ'd for repeatedly spitting out the mouthpiece. Have you ever experienced something like that in the amateurs coming up? Like it was just a weird circumstance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a veteran move to be able to spell out that mouthpiece. And while I did think that a couple of those times were definitely intentional, after the fight, we were able to talk, and he was just like, "Hey, man, no one was just able to hit him with an uppercut like that before." He goes, "I just never saw the uppercut coming when you were landing it." He goes, and my mouth was just open. So I don't think that he intentionally did it the last time. I think that might have been on by accident. But it's a veteran move, and he's a veteran fighter. And but at the end of the day, we got that job done.
Yeah, unfortunately, also to put an end to your knockout streak. You had started your career 10-0, and now you're 11-0 with 10 KOs. Is that a little upsetting too that you didn't get the stoppage?
I was like in the car, well, in like the Uber ride back to the hotel. I was talking to some of my friends. I was like, "Man, it doesn't matter to me. I don't really care." But then the Uber driver asked me, he goes, "Oh, you're a professional fighter." He goes, "What's your record?" I was like, 11-0 with only 10 knockouts. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, "Man," I was like, so it is kind of it's kind of like a little bit of a annoyance, but I mean, I've never seen the last bell, and I do think that if the fight were to progress how it was, I would have had that stoppage. Um, but to each your own. Maybe this is a little bit of a pressure relief for me in the long run. So now I don't have to like have the pressure of continuing that knockout streak. So it might be a good thing in the long run.
I guess now you have to take that anger out on Munoz. What do you know about him?
He's a good fighter. I know he fought in the WSB for Mexico, so like he has an amateur pedigree. He has a pretty good style. He used to fight at a lighter weight, and then he kind of blew up a little bit. But I respect his style and boxing ability. I think that he's coming for a fight.
Um, at the age of 24, how soon are you ready to level up and really stamp your name as a contender in the heavyweight division?
If it was up to me, I'd do it tomorrow. I feel ready. I'm eager. I'm willing, and I'm able. But I'm following the plan that Top Ranks provided me. I know that they have a tradition, a legacy of building champions, and so I'm not one to rush the process. And I'm abiding by the plan that they've given me. If they decide that tomorrow they want to make me give me a title shot, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm I'm jumping at the bit, but I understand that there's a process. I understand that heavyweights take a little bit of a longer time to progress and to develop, and and I'm no stranger to prolonged gratification. I'm fine with biting my tongue and putting my nose to the grindstone.
With I think you have a cautionary tale in your top ranked stablemate Jared Anderson, right? Where he took a fight that many believed he probably wasn't ready for in Bacoli, and we saw what happened. Do you also understand that this development process is very real, and you just can't go up there into the upper echelon of the contender overnight?
You know, I almost share Jared's ambitions and his drive. If they would have offered me that fight, I probably would have took it as well. Uh, just because we're fighters at the end of the day. We're fighters. We think we're the best. We trust in our abilities and our and what we can accomplish. I just have a team set up behind me that is very diligent in expressing the what you were saying about it takes time and there's a process and building just like criteria. And so I'm not like I see why Jared took the fight. I see like the mindset behind it. I'm not knocking that because I probably would have done the same thing. But I am thankful I have my team behind me that can kind of keep the reins in.
So the conversations you're having with Hall of Fame matchmakers, Bruce Trampler, Brad Goodman, what are they telling you? What's the outlook they have for you? What are those conversations like?
That's honestly a question for my dad. My dad is my manager and my coach. He's the guy that has those deep conversations with them. Uh, what I hear is, hey, your next fight's this day, and you're fighting so and so. Um, and that's all I need to know. I I I put so much trust in my promotional company and in my management of my dad that I'm not even worried about the plan because I know there is one. And I know that they know what's best for me, and it makes it a lot easier for me to just go out there and know I only have one opponent. I don't have 10 in the future lined up already.
So let's give you the matchmaking keys. In an ideal world, 2025, who are the two guys you want to face? Who do you think are the perfect step up opponents for you?
I've always said it, and I said this before he took his big losses, but I really wanted Joe Joyce. Um, I don't know if he's still boxing or not, but I've said this in a couple interviews. He's the one guy that I've only called out before of saying like I'd like to have that fight in the future. Um, he's also an Olympic silver medalist. I think he showed what he was able to do, and we sparred when I was a kid, and I kind of like to see that again in the ring. But I don't know. Top Rank has a lot of people in their stable right now as well. I think that if we start kind of meeting up with each other in 2025 and kind of figuring out the scene of the heavyweight division coming up, because I feel like a lot of the big players are starting to retire a little bit and kind of on their back end, and the newer guys are starting to try to make their name. I think 2025 is a great year to establish names.
Who are those names? Who do you consider your peers? Who are you kind of looking at next to you in the lane next to you and be like, yeah, this is the guy who I could be fighting in 5 years? What is that? Who are the guys that you consider your peers at this point that are under the age of, 25, 26?
There's Fraser Clark, there's Fabio Worthley, there's Jared Anderson, there's Guido, there's um there's F.A. Jagba, um there's there's a couple names right there, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of those names that are that that I feel like we're kind of in a similar zone, a similar area. Like Frazier was a bronze medalist. Fabio, he's around our same age. I think that Jared and I were on the same team together. Um, no, they have had like a little bit longer time in the pros. Well, some of them, not Frazier, but like some of them have had a little bit longer time in the pros to build and kind of have a higher audience level. But I think those are some great names that I would love to see. I think that we have the ability to make some of that happen as well. And I'm with the smoke. I really am. Like you put me in the ring with anybody, I don't turn down fights. I'm about that action.
There's also 2020 Olympian Sotni Rogova, the Ukrainian.
Hmm.
There's Gurgen Hovhannisyan,
Yep.
the Armenian. There's a lot of up and coming talent right there that I think the boxing public can get excited about. With who do you think is outside of Usyk and Fury right now? Daniel Dubois has had a great emergence and resurgence in recent years. Do you think that fight could be presented to you sometime down the line? Because he's one of the younger guys too.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to take the opportunity. You know, I think Dubois is an amazing fighter. He packs one heck of a punch. But like I said, I'm very confident in my abilities. I'm confident in my training camps and the people I have around me. I would love to fight anybody that they give me. You know, like Dubois, I think is a great opponent, a great fighter. And I'd really love to be able to show kind of that Usyk style, but with more of a Mexican tone to it. You know, I like more of a little bit more aggression. I like being in there. I like making a fight happen. And I think that would play pretty well to the audience, not just the heavyweight community.
I know recently you were a color commentator and an analyst for one of the shows. So I want you to wear your analyst hat here now for Usyk and Fury. Break it down to me. How do you see the rematch happening?
I think the I think the ball is in Fury's court. I think that Usyk showed what he can do and is just gonna double down on that. You know, I think what worked for Usyk will work again in the next time or this in this next competition. I think it's up to Fury to be able to keep Usyk at bay and to utilize more feints, a little more movement, and keep that distance. But I mean, like it was, and at the end of the day, it wasn't like Usyk washed Tyson Fury. You know, it was a relatively close fight. It was like between two rounds. You know, so I think that it's minor changes that Fury has to make in order to make a big difference. And if Usyk could double down, continue to use those lateral movements, and get in on Fury, I think he'll do better than he even did in his first fight. Just moral of the story is I would give the advantage to Usyk just because he has a game plan now. Um, but you can't count Tyson Fury out.
So you're going with your fellow Southpaw.
I'm edging it towards my fellow Southpaw, yes, but at the end of the day, I'm a huge Tyson Fury fan as well, and I'm excited to see how he changes his game plan.
You talk about being a Tyson Fury fan. I mean, you were born in the year 2000. So I'm curious, who are your favorite fighters and heavyweights growing up? Because obviously you grew up in a time where the heavyweight division was really in transition and it was trying to find some emerging faces. Who are those favorite fighters you had growing up?
You know, growing up, I used to be tall for my weight class. Actually, I used to be a taller guy, and then somehow that everyone else just caught up to me. But they used to call me Baby Klitschko. I used to love watching Klitschko fight. Just that boxing ability, those straight punches, the check hook out. Uh, you know, Klitschko was definitely one of my favorite heavyweights. But growing up, it was always my dad. My dad was my favorite fighter. I loved his style of coming in, staying inside, and just outwilling other people. You know. And then a little bit more as I was getting to watch boxing. Pacquiao, he was just a top guy who was a lefty that could see throw from all angles. And then Lomachenko, as soon as I saw him the first time, I was like, this guy is something different. You know, he's something special. There's the movement, the angles that he gives, and the mixing up of punches. You know, not all just hard. Like he was touching, he was digging. It was something that was really beautiful for me to watch. And so, yeah, it's kind of the littler lefties that I like watching a lot.
That's awesome. And I heard recently that you're also learning how to speak Spanish. The next time we talk, are we going to do the interview in Spanish?
Sí, estoy aprendiendo español. Cuando yo tengo un ejercicio en mi gimnasio, yo solamente hablar español para mi entrenador. So I'm getting there, man. It's easier for me to understand it than speak it fully now. I know most of the boxing lingo, but sometimes like what will happen is I'll get stuck on one word, you know, and I'll forget the rest of the sentence to translate. But I'm learning, and I'm gonna be there soon.
And I also heard you're learning sign language. So can you do the same
Oh
thing in sign
yeah,
language too?
got the ASL coming up too. Yeah, but that. my next class I have to translate a song in ASL. I'm doing Zero to Hero, the Disney Hercules song. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I really like ASL as well because I always said that as boxers we talk with our hands, and so I said, hey, there's actually a language where you can't talk with your hands, so I have to put my money where my mouth is, and so I'm really gonna do it.
Well, the only language I got for you is Armenian, and
All right.
I'm pretty sure growing up in the local Fresno area, you came across a lot of Armenians in the community there, and
Uh-huh.
we were talking about Gurgen Hovhannisyan earlier. That could be a big fight in Fresno. The Armenian community comes out, and you have a big homecoming fight. Does that sound good to you?
I think so. Yeah, I think that'd be great. You know, like having being able to share the ring with another fellow Olympian. Oh, it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like you always get those little goosebumps because you know how hard each of you have worked to get to the point where you're at or where you've been. You know, not everyone could rock those rings, and so I would love to be able to share the ring with them.
Have those conversations happened already with like when that homecoming fight for you, a main event fight, when that could be around the corner? We saw the big debut for Keyshawn Davis. We saw what Top Rank did with Jose Ramirez back in the day, making him a essentially a franchise commodity in Fresno. When do you think that could happen for you?
I hope relatively soon. Honestly, I think I'm ready. I do. I've feel like I've shown my abilities. I know that. Uh, I mean, I have more to prove, definitely, but like I feel like I'm at the point where I have enough of a following in the Central Valley to really be able to sell out and show how supportive we can be with one another. And I'm really excited, and I'm hoping my fingers crossed that that's gonna be really soon here.
Well, it looks like you're doing the interview from back home in Fresno now,
Yeah.
and looking forward to seeing you in these more big time fights and showcase attractions. Before I let you go, your final prediction: are you going back into the KO column in this fight?
I never predicted knockout because if I go in there expecting a knockout, it's not going to come. You know what I will predict is that you will be able to see me box. You'll be able to see me with some better head movement because this guy throws punches. You know, sometimes it's hard for me to showcase my defense because people don't throw on me. It's kind of hard when I'm throwing the feints, but you'll be able to see a performance, and it will not be a boring fight. I guarantee you.